Hello everyone and welcome to the midweek video on Thursday as usual. I made a triple piece I made a clothing set. This is actually something you could wear, like unlike usual, this is a clothing that is covering the usual parts of the body relatively well. And yeah, the whole inspiration came from stuff I saw in the real world, so yeah, this might explain why this is actually wearable for once. The other inspiration is, like, I kind of wanted to do something kind of vampire themed, because I'm working on a short D&D plot that I will run this week, and this is gonna be vampire themed. So yeah, I wanted basically something in that general direction. The whole thing is a frilly clothing set made up of a top. As you can see, I used the full body suit that I made for most of this. And the one special thing that I added is these frills. So I'm going to talk a bit about how I actually did that. So as you can see, I started with a line that I then thickened into a tube. This is so I could actually control the thickness of the tube. This is about 0.01 units in hexagon. So it is visible. If I wanted to make it visible, like I could give it a different color than the top and it would be visible, but it is not too big, so it doesn't add to the perceived thickness of the clothing. I copy pasted one of the lines of this, the inner line to be precise, and I extruded this one, which gave me a plane more or less. And I as you can see, I wiggled the edges of this like back and forth or left and right, so that this would get this frilly kind of component. I could have copy pasted a line from the clothing, thickened that, but in this case I actually wanted to have a different line because I wanted to be able to not go with the clothing here. Basically, I wanted to be able to cut around corners without having the clothing dent in that part. I didn't want to add additional lines to the clothing, basically. Basically, I did the same thing again for the second frill on the top, and then I did another one for the frill on the arm, which you will see. Quick note, the second chapter, the skirt is not finished because I paused the recording again and forgot to put it on again. Yeah, you can see I'm putting the sides back and forth. This is just for the frilly effect that I want, that gives it kind of a it gives it a bit more texture. I'm actually still playing around with the textures on this. I put on a very simple fabric texture of velvet. Yeah, the whole thing crashed for a second here, but it is what it is. I didn't lose any progress, so lucky me. Yeah, for the arm I had to this is why I mainly did this, because I didn't want to have a line that like looped around the or linked around the arm or spiraled around the arm. I wanted to do this by hand, so I basically tested this out first on the torso before I knew if this would work or not. And after I did the torso, I wrapped this around the arm one time, and the rest is the same, copy pasting one of the edges extruding the edge to get the actual frill, or the actual lace in this case. At least that's what I labeled it. And yeah, from there it's just like smoothing it down, copy pasting the outer edge of this so that it actually has a second edge in case I want to make it want to mess with the opacity or anything else. Yeah, the UV maps, as usual, relatively simple or relatively nonchalant, because I just wanted to basically finish this, or no, not finish this, but I didn't want to make it more difficult than it is. The skirt is handmade. I basically started making the skirt from scratch. At this point I actually should make a base skirt model that I can work with, because I'm doing this fairly often, and it would probably save a lot of time to actually have a finished skirt that I can just alter for whatever I want to do. Yeah, in this case the skirt is also cut in the middle, similar to the top. I basically wanted to keep this topic or this idea specifically, and yeah, I wanted to basically have it open on the side, so it is a bit or it is asymmetrical, which also meant I had to work a lot of the details by hand. I couldn't on both sides. I couldn't just copy paste stuff, or I couldn't just symmetry it and mirror it. But yeah, so far I'm happy with how this worked out in the end. And yeah, I'm still not fully happy with the skirt, because it is very flat, very basic. The frills add a bit of touch to it, but it is not that detailed. There is detail on the skirt actually missing. Might add a little chain to it, just some detail that opens it up a bit more. For the top it works, because the top has way less fabric, but the skirt is relatively big, relatively dominant in the whole thing, so I would probably, or I will add some minor detail. Since I didn't rig the skirt, this is relatively easy to do, because I can just add the detail, re-import it, copy paste the surfaces, and then I can just use it as it is. But yeah, the skirt is not rigged in this case. I didn't see a reason to. Yeah, for this time I actually copy pasted some edges, mainly because it was way quicker, and I was already short on time for this, because it took longer than expected to make the top. And the rest is the same, copy pasting one edge for and extruding the created curve for the frills. I actually made the other frills by hand again, so I didn't copy paste the frills, even though I looked into it, but it would have looked very, very copy pasted, so I made those by hand. Yeah, for the shoes I copy paste, or I reused the wedge, the plateau wedges that I already made. Yeah, I now have them as a template for myself, and I used the basic featureless boot that I also have, that I just had to adjust to the heels tiny bit. And this was relatively simple. I wasn't sure at first how I would actually like make the shoe, how much detail I wanted to add. And the main part, or the main work with the shoe that is not in the video, is actually rigging it or weight mapping it. You've seen my last video where I showed the weight mapping. In this case, I also had to carefully weight map the rings. If you look very closely, you can still see 1 or 2 points where where I didn't properly weight map the rings, so there's like spikes standing out. But overall, I'm happy with how this looks. I'm happy how this came out. And yeah, a relatively simple, straightforward process with the shoes here. Only addition would be the hole in the wedge that I made for this specific thing. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the render at the end, and I will see you on the weekend. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you guys around.